Hi and welcome back to our introduction to the chickens. This is part 2 of the video, so if you haven't seen the first one, check out the description below for the link to the beginning of the story, where we introduce our 3 chickens and explain the reasons for selecting them. The first video also introduces the What a Chicken Coop build. In this video, we will talk about the actual process of raising chickens in the house, transitioning them to the yard, going over the coop features and neat ways to clean after the birds. We'll touch on the chickens possibly getting sick and discuss what food and supplements we use. And of course, we will show you a couple of cool firsts that we were able to capture on camera. So here goes, Raising Chickens in the City Backyard, Part 2. Supplies. Purchasing farm-related supplies is usually best in specialized stores. If you go to Amazon, like a lot of us do nowadays as the first reflex, just about everything will cost 2 or even 3 times of what it really costs. I'll show you some examples in a bit. If you have a Tractor Supply store nearby, that is your winning ticket, especially for the large and bulky items like the feed, bedding, and farm-specific materials. Also check out some smaller specialty stores nearby which can carry items that the Tractor Supply might be out of stock on. Near San Antonio we found a useful local feed and medicine store, Jupe Mills. They had a medicine in stock that the Tractor Supply was out of at the moment. As I have mentioned in the previous video, when we got the chickens, at first they spent several weeks in the bathtub. We created a safe zone in a large plastic container for them with a heat lamp nearby. We gave them plenty of water and piles of nutritious young chicken food. Gave them the bedding from straw and a few sticks to sit on and under. Every day we went in to clean up the poop. I realized more and more that the straw is not really the answer here. All of the poop sticks to the top of the straw, and the chickens just flatten it all with their feet and then sit in that filth. I highly recommend using pine shavings. Not sawdust, but actual shavings, similar to meat smoker chips but very thin. The area stays clean for a longer period of time because as the chickens walk over it, they flip and fluff up the shavings. In the process, they're cleaning their feet. When you are raising them in the house, make sure to clean up after them daily or your house can start to stink of bird poop very fast. Other than that, it's a pretty simple process. A few days after we brought the chickens home and set them up in a bathtub, one morning we noticed that Flo had pink eyes which were swollen and crusting over, and she was really struggling to open them. She was miserable and blindly sitting in the corner. It was a very sad sight, and we tried flushing the eyes with eye drops, but that did not work. This is where the local chicken seller came into play. We reached out to them and they were able to get advice on a treatment to us within minutes. Since they deal with thousands of chickens every year, they've seen it all and can really help. Plus, the relationship builds a bond for repeat business. After agreeing on the course of treatment, we used the liquamycin antibiotic in their water to boost the immunity and vet our X on their beaks, which is kind of like Vicks Vapor Rub but made for chickens. We kept Flo separated from the other 2 for a few days until she fully recovered. During this time, Gertie, not yet the G unit she is today, and Master P were constantly trying to check on Flo by trying to sneak into this isolation chamber, but we blocked their entry. For very young chicks, it's advisable to cover the water with rocks so they don't drown when they dip their heads in the water. We used this method with a small container and rocks for a few nights and then switched over to the basic gravity-fed water feeder and removed the rocks completely within about a week. For the first day or 2, we added sugar to their water to speed up their metabolism so they can feel warmer and to help them get acclimated to the new place. When you place the water container into their living area, they will kick up a bunch of stuff from the floor into the water, so you have to constantly clean it. As soon as you have a chance to lift it, I would recommend lifting it up further from the ground. This way the pine shavings and food are no longer kicked into the water. We also add a little bit of vitamins to their water supply to assist them in achieving their full potential, whatever it may be. For the main food source, we use Purina Start and Grow medicated crumbles. It is designed for chickens under 18 weeks old, so we still have about 10 weeks left on this feed for Flo, 7 for Gertie, and 5 for Petunia. Once one of them crosses into the 18-week-old territory, which is in 5 weeks, we will introduce the Purina Layana food pellets, which are designed for older chickens, and instead of concentrating on growth, it concentrates more on maintaining a balanced and nutritious diet. Chicken digestive system relies on rocks to grind the food down. Since they don't have teeth, whatever food they decide to swallow gets broken down inside their bellies. And to get those rocks inside, they are sporadically placed in their run. This way, they inadvertently pick up some small pieces of grit along with various food they find. When we just got them and they were eating only the chick food we gave them in the bathtub, we gave them the Do More chicken grit. And this chicken grit is usually finely crushed insoluble granite, so it's a perfect type of hard rock to grind the food well. After we moved them to the yard, we also switched their grit from Chick to Mana Pro, which is recommended from 8 weeks and up. The only difference is the size of the pebbles. Little chickens need little rocks, and bigger chickens can eat bigger rocks. After all the girls reach 18 weeks old, we will start offering them the Do More oyster shell as a side dish. It is digestible and introduces additional calcium in their diet as they start laying eggs. Besides all these specialized items, we give them plenty of tasty treats. Greens from the garden like cilantro, kale, dill, or just a handful of weeds from the yard. Or we throw them some sunflower seeds or the Do More 5-grain scratch mix. Their favorite, of course, are the mealworms. It's like crack for them. These are dried, and I really want to get some live red worms to see how they will like them. I bet they will go crazy for them. Petunia and Gertie moved to the outdoor coop on the same day at 10 and 8 weeks old. Flo had to stay behind in a bath for 2 extra weeks because it was just still too cold for her. So we kept her alone under a heating lamp in a bath at night and let her hang out with the others outside during the day when it was sunny. Usually those excursions ended up with her slipping under Gertie for warmth and squeaking, showing how cold she was. As soon as we take her inside to get warm though, the other two start ruffling the feathers in disagreement. So for 2 weeks it was a daily expedition yard time for Flo, while for Petunia and Gertie, they were just getting used to their daily life. By 7 weeks old, Flo started to get more head feathers and appeared to be fine in the relatively cold of the Texas winter, especially when they all sit together. Since she wanted to hang out with the adults, we moved her to the coop. We introduced the chickens to outdoors at different times. Petunia, as the oldest, was the one to teach the younger ones how to walk up into the coop. It was an interesting experience seeing how their ability to jump increased. Petunia walked into the coop on the first night, and Gertie followed her in. A couple of days later, we had to put her in by hand only a few times. When Flo got introduced to the coop a week ago, it took her a while to be able to actually jump in. Partially, it's my fault. When I cut the hole in their floor, I made it towards the back of the wall, so they have to go up, then turn around, and enter by jumping over the hole or stepping to the side. I was waiting to see if she was able to easily do it, or I would have changed the floor direction. The other problem was also me being proactive and offering them 2 additional perch steps right under the coop entrance. At first, Flo would make it to the top step, and then she would just sit there, directly underneath where the other 2 are sitting. The other ones will start going up and down, showing her how to do it, but she would just sit there while loudly chirping at them, until one of us would eventually come around and give her a boost up. Then the squeaking would stop and they would all go to sleep. I was very interested in how they utilize different aspects of their new home, so I was able to capture a couple of firsts, including Flo's entry into the coop unassisted, while the girls cheer her on. I ended up cutting off the 2 branches on the left of the ramp, so now Flo enters the coop without having any place to sit and ponder about her existence. Whenever we wake up, the chickens are usually already in the lower area and eager to get outside into the enclosure. We open up the door from the lower run to the open area, and the chickens spend all day goofing around, sleeping, eating, and preening each other all day long. Chickens are very adventurous and like to explore. That's why we give them a bunch of things to climb and to mess around with. About an hour before the sunset, they mobilize to eat as much as they can and finish up any unfinished business. This is when we like to let them out from their enclosure into the main yard, and of course they love it. They still walk around as a group, and if one thinks that they sense danger, they all book it back to the coop. Even if they get distracted with something in the yard, when one of them realizes that it's almost dark, they make a squawk and all of them run to the safety of the coop, almost knocking each other over. So we don't have to corral them. They are kind of autonomous in that sense. We just need to close the gate after they get in. As we have started this practice, the girls also started doing a cool thing. If we are hanging out on the patio, they come over almost as if to wish us good night right before going in for the night. Petunia, who runs away if you try to pick her up, jumps up next to us and leaves only after we pat her on the back. This might develop into some kind of a tradition. The only problem with letting them out is that they will climb on top of everything within their reach, and they will leave you plenty of poop to remember them by. Just like with the container inside the bathtub, we clean up inside the coop daily. The girls all like to sit in that same corner, especially while it's pretty cold at night, and of course they create a nice pile of poop on that spot. To help with the cleanup, I use a small shop vac, which works outstanding with sucking up the pine chips. This is another reason why I prefer chips over straw. The coop design allows me to open the roof and easily suck up the top layer of the area or all of the soiled matter. Then I sprinkle some fresh chips to replace the ones that I took out, and that's it. Every couple of days we empty the shop vac into a bucket that we will probably turn into some compost. I'm currently deciding if I want to make a small composting bin to use this trash and possibly even raise worms in that same box. Those can be fed to chickens or I can take them fishing. But I don't want anything that attracts additional flies, so I might try it out and see how it goes. The bottom of the coop box is filled with pine shavings and some straw. We can easily clean it up with a small dustpan or the same shop vac. Since it sits on a concrete patio, the cleanup is a breeze. We clean the coop box daily and the bottom box once a week. Observations. Chickens don't like the rain or the lawn sprinklers for that matter. Wet chicken is a miserable looking creature. But they do like to hang out in the area that just got wet, since various food sources are coming out to the surface. They also like hanging out in the sunspots, usually falling asleep if they get very comfortable. Throughout the day, they chase the sunspots around their enclosure. The way we place the coop in the yard is to provide almost constant shade. Right now it's cold, but in a few months, they will be hiding from the sunspots when the temperature goes over 100. The older girls seem to like foggy and warm weather, even if they are slowly getting wet. All of their characters are a bit different, which is currently shaped by their size and the place in their current pecking order. That will probably change, and I hope that Flo and Gertie don't turn into bullies once they get to their maximum size. So there you go. This was my introduction into a new project that will be ongoing and ever-changing. Let me know what are your thoughts on my setup, and overall, just let me know what you think. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it, and please subscribe to the channel and this playlist to be notified when I release follow-up videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the flip side.